is due to rents rising considerably faster than incomes in that time. Stay with 91.5 WBEZ. We're going to have more on this story throughout Morning Edition.
Why are consumers turning so sour on the economy?
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Progressive Insurance. The Name Your Price tool provides a range of coverage options. Progressive.com. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
I'm David Brancaccio in New York. First, the U.S. and Ukraine have agreed to a draft deal to give U.S. access to Ukraine's rare earth minerals. The news agency Reuters cites two sources with knowledge of the matter on this. This was a key demand of the Trump administration, and Ukrainian officials may have believed the concession was necessary to maintain U.S. support in the war against Russia. Russia invaded Ukraine 3 years ago this week, yet President Trump had said that Ukraine, quote, never should have started it. Marketplace's Nova Safo has more on the emerging minerals deal.
Yeah, the details of it are still fuzzy, David, but the broad outlines of this tentative deal apparently include a reserve fund paid for by proceeds from the mining of rare earth minerals in Ukraine, and the U.S. would have a joint ownership stake of some sort. President Trump had previously demanded $500 billion in mineral revenues from Ukraine as payback for past support, although the U.S. has not spent anywhere near that much in military aid for Ukraine. In any case, that's apparently not in the deal. Meanwhile, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky had been seeking security guarantees and ongoing military support. We don't know if that's included in this tentative deal either. What we do know is the two leaders are likely to meet soon for more talks. Trump said yesterday that Zelensky wants to come to the White House to sign this deal, maybe as soon as Friday, David.
Friday. All right. And how much of these valuable minerals is Ukraine thought to have?
Well, by its own accounting, Ukraine says it has about 21 so-called critical raw minerals, which are necessary for green energy development, electric vehicles, and battery power. Now, we're talking about minerals like lithium and graphite. It has about 3% of the world's lithium reserves. So Zelensky had floated the mineral reserves as an area of investment in the past, but he balked at the initial U.S. proposal and said generations of Ukrainians would be indebted to the U.S. Now there's a deal that could provide an economic stake for the U.S. and Ukraine's welfare, and that is apparently something Ukraine favors in the long run.
Thanks for that, Nova Safo there. New surveys show a lot of people have gotten quite nervous about the economy. Yesterday, the business group, the Conference Board, reported the biggest monthly decline in consumer confidence since 2021. February was the third straight month that confidence fell, about everything from future business conditions to income and jobs to family plans for spending. Now, separately last week, the University of Michigan survey also reported a sharp decline in the optimism of consumers, along with a sharp increase in inflation expectations. Here's Marketplace's Mitchell Hartman.
There have been signs of rising consumer agita for months, says Tuan Nguyen at consulting firm RSM. But the latest decline in sentiment?
It was quite a surprise. We did not anticipate it would be this significant.
And what's driving it?
Consumers are increasingly concerned about inflation. We are seeing the impact of higher food prices, particularly egg prices, rising gasoline costs, and talk around high tariffs.
Mostly, threatened tariffs haven't happened yet. Still, says economist Elizabeth Renter at NerdWallet,
a big part of what's going on is uncertainty. It's in a lot of headlines right now. Economists are saying they're uncertain about things. We see it in the Fed meeting minutes.
Economist Robert Frick at Navy Federal Credit Union calls it
a sense of foreboding with tariffs and with layoffs.
Of federal workers, which the Trump administration has started to implement.
You could lose 10% of the federal workforce, 300,000 people. You could lose 500,000 federal contractors.
We don't know how all this tariff raising and job cutting is going to turn out, but the uncertainty is bumming consumers out, meaning they're likely to pull back their spending, right? Frick says probably not.
Consumer confidence, consumer sentiment have very little bearing on how people actually spend.
He says as long as consumers' incomes are going up and beating inflation, they're likely to keep spending. Meanwhile, fears of tariff-driven inflation might actually encourage more spending, says Elizabeth Renter.
If I had plans to purchase a vehicle in 2025, but I think vehicle prices are going to climb significantly over the next year, I might accelerate that, purchase it right now.
And Renter warns this accelerated spending to get a jump on tariffs could drive some consumers to take on more high-interest debt than they can afford. I'm Mitchell Hartman for Marketplace.
Dow futures are up 0.3%, S&P futures up 0.5%, NASDAQ futures are up 0.8%. Bonds are up this morning, pulling the 10-year interest rate down to 4.29%.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Schwab. Schwab offers investors choices like full-service wealth management, self-directed investing options, and trading on Thinkorswim. More at schwab.com. And by the Marketplace newsletter. No jargon, no hype, just smart takes on the economy. Marketplace.org/subscribe.
According to the president, the U.S. is launching a new green card for wealthy people who want to immigrate and become U.S. citizens. It'll be called the Gold Card. Marketplace's Nancy Marshall-Genzer has some details.
President Trump unveiled the gold card idea while speaking to reporters in the Oval Office. He says the cards would give wealthy people the right to live and work in the U.S.
We're going to be selling a gold card. You have a green card. This is a gold card. We're going to be putting a price on that card of about $5 million, and that's going to give you green card privileges plus. It's going to be a route to citizenship.
Trump said the U.S. will start selling the cards in about 2 weeks. Asked if Russian oligarchs would be eligible for gold cards, Trump said possibly, adding he knows some Russian oligarchs that are, quote, very nice people. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick was standing next to Trump. He said immigrants applying for the new gold cards would be vetted, and the card would replace the current EB-5 program for wealthy immigrant investors. It gives green cards to foreigners who invest a certain amount of money in a U.S. business. It's not clear, though, that Trump can just replace the EB-5 program with the gold card without congressional approval. I'm Nancy Marshall-Genzer for Marketplace.
And a satellite company owned by the unofficial czar of federal staff cuts, that's Elon Musk, is on a possible fast track to take over a large federal contract to modernize America's air traffic communication system. The Associated Press is reporting equipment from Musk's Starlink has been installed in Federal Aviation Administration facilities as a prelude to a possible switch to what has been a $2 billion Verizon contract. The AP got this from government employees and contractors. In New York, I'm David Brancaccio. It's the Marketplace Morning Report. From APM, American Public Media.